Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome into episode 68 of Kayfabe Kouncil, the show where we review and critique news topics and segments in the world of professional wrestling. My name is Pretty Tony, and alongside me, as always, is the good brother, TF Joker. Joker, what's the crack, man? What's going on, bud?
Oh, we took a bit of a break there, and we sort of went out into the ether, and I just sort of existed for a period of time, just sleeping and eating and sleeping and eating and sleeping and drinking and watching wrestling all the while.
Yes, some of you noticed from the previous episode 67, we ended up taking just a couple weeks off. I know for myself, I'll speak for myself only, just a bit under the weather. Some things came up. My computer's been on the fritz. You know what? Sometimes when it rains, it pours and kind of things sort of all happen together. So a little bit of a hodgepodge. Just wanted to make sure that things were relatively kind of going a little bit better before we sort of jumped in and kind of give you a little bit of a poor production or just kind of oddball or kind of poor show. So that was a little bit on myself per se, but I just wanted to make sure that we at least can give you a good performance and some good entertainment and a good show going forward.
And I mean, as PT does edit these episodes, it's probably not good that if he tries to edit them, his PC blows up. So PC problems aside and illness aside, we back, baby.
We are indeed, and a lot of things happened over the couple weeks that we were off from production of the show. Just some things kind of sorted, a lot of kind of miscellaneous things, some championships won, some championship loss, some folks going back and forth. And most recently, we ended up having an AEW pay-per-view the previous weekend, or last week when this video slash podcast slash show is released. We ended up having a WrestleDream from that, and of course, in honor of Antonio Inoki, which was the big precipice for that. Real quick, Joker, was there anything that maybe you remember fondly, or that you took away, or something that you remembered from WrestleDream this past weekend?
There was a couple of things that I liked and I disliked about WrestleDream. One of the bright spots was John Moxley on commentary. Absolutely adored John Moxley on commentary because he was just so passionate. Him and Nigel McGuinness just going at it on commentary. You seen the pictures of them both standing up and yelling, him covering his microphone and swearing, and just all you hear in the background is just Excalibur going, "Swear jar." It's like, but I covered my microphone. He was just fantastic. I loved him. I thought it was great. Um, One of the worst things, and I say this every single time it seems to happen, doesn't matter if it's a women's match or a men's match, MJF beating the Righteous does absolutely nothing for the Righteous when we were trying to maybe sort of put them over as a legitimate threat. Um, and absolutely everything for MJF because, well, they still have the titles. The match wasn't like super good, but I mean, it keeps MJF in the sphere because he's not currently doing any big title matches. What with the story with him and his brochacho. Other than that, one of the best matches on the card was obviously the Bryan Danielson Zack Sabre Jr. match. It was very very fun, and yeah, I suppose also Eddie Kingston and Katsuyori Shibata was another pretty dang good match, and I loved Eddie just kind of walking off, letting Shibata stand in the ring. Even though Kingston won, he gave Shibata his time in the sun, especially for having such a big match.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of elements from that show as well. Just some of the highlights, like you mentioned, just in terms of the Ring of Honor tag team titles. Unfortunately, Adam Cole jumping off the stage at Grand Slam, trying to be in the corner of MJF for his title defense against Samoa Joe. Unfortunately, just had a accident and injured his ankle. So they're trying to work around that. Yeah, it was one of those weird things that he's also happens to be the world champion in a tag team match, opening the show for a secondary tag team title. So it was kind of a almost a no-win situation where you want to have a strong contender for the righteous, but then also you can't have MJF lose to maybe somebody that you have built up strong in per se the righteous, but then also it's a handicap match. So it was a weird thing. You probably knew MJF was going to win, but yeah, it was a tough spot all around. And it's crazy how sometimes you and I think exactly alike because, of course, mind the fact that when, when I heard Christian Cage and Darby Allin were going to main event, I'm like, sure as day that Mr. Edge Cage or Sexton Hardcastle or the Adam Copeland per se pretty much knew he's going to more than likely debut because they did a little thing with the Adam Cole Bryan Danielson piece at the end of Double or Nothing, a couple years back. So that's kind of their MO. But obviously that was an exciting element. But man, you and I, it's scary how much you were on the same page because my biggest highlight was John Moxley on commentaries. The specific facts of how him breaking down Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson, how they're both strong technical wrestlers, but exhibiting the specificity of their technical prowess. More so, Bryan being a stand up uh, with the strikes as well as a reactionary. So he'll let you grab a hold of him so he can counter. But then Zack Sabre Jr. is more the sort of well-rounded ground game element, and he'll put you in an Indian deathlock, but then also grab the arm and then transfer to a crossface too. So you only have one arm free of all your appendages. But yeah, uh, all around just kind of fun show because it was new pay-per-view. Maybe some folks weren't expecting a huge amount of expectations coming out of it. But yeah, I think it was just a fun show. AEW shows are long, 13, 14 matches. My boy Eddie Kingston, like you mentioned, from my neck of the woods out in New York City. Love to see him win. So have a strong showing. Love to see. Yeah, I thought it was a fun and engaging show all around. To be fair.
Yeah, it definitely was engaging because there was a lot of stuff that was there that tied up stories, opened up stories, made them. Like the Luchasaurus Nick Wayne match at the very start on the pre-show was pretty good. For the story that went on later on in the Christian Cage Darby Allin match, the Claudio match where he defeated Josh Barnett, that was a really good pre-show match that went on later on to the Bryan Danielson Zack Sabre Jr. match. Just things like that there. The Eddie Kingston sort of love for Japan and the New Japan style wrestling, the wrestling that he has grown up loving, and then just obviously everything that happened with the Young Bucks match because let's face it, it was absolutely hectic, and I loved it, and I love seeing Hook in the ring with those guys. Um, it was probably a little bit too hectic though. 14 matches all told from start to finish is somewhat massive compared to the pay per view we're going to talk about today, which only had five.
Certainly a differing perspective as well as philosophy when it comes to pay-per-views specifically, but we've noticed an increase, maybe adding a couple more shows on the AEW side this calendar year, of course, but who knows? I heard murmurings that WrestleDream might become an additional yearly event. So we've looks like we're having All In and WrestleDream added to the pay-per-view calendar for AEW subsequently for
Heard that too.
2024. So, I mean, we'll see if it continues to be 13, 14, 15 matches on a card, or maybe they'll kind of see again, this is sort of their kind of biggest year pay-per-view wise with the number of events, but cool.
Yeah, we had this conversation a while ago, I believe, about their pay per views, and we were both fine with once a quarter. Like once a quarter, I think for the fledgling sort of AEW was fine, but I always kind of felt that they were going to add more. Because like, how could you give up that if you gain that popularity? How could you give up that money that's just sitting on the table for more pay per views, more buy ins, and things like that there. And I think they need to get the timing right. I think they need to get the booking of the cards correct, not just sort of slap together 7 or 8 matches the week before. If it has to go down to like 8 matches on the card, TK just let it go to 8 matches on the card. Just make sure they're good matches, give people their time, and have the stories going into them. Give me reasons to want to watch the match. Um, but yeah, I think that's just going to be the growth of AEW. We probably see more structure added to their pay-per-views. And yeah, I kind of want them to do a Saturday pay-per-view if they're going to do 14 matches, because it would just give me all day Sunday. I have to spread this pay-per-view over a Monday, Tuesday sometimes, and it's not on.
It can be a tough sell now that they have Collision on Saturday, so they might stay with the Sunday deals.
Oh yeah.
But well, I mean, we'll kind of see. Every once in a while, WCW used to do their Saturday show 6:05 to 8:05, and then have a pay per view. That used to be sort of the kind of pre-show element type of thing. But I mean, next to be seen how they'll do that going forward. So appreciate everybody allowing us to have a little Brucey bonus segment talking about a little AEW and the pay per view. Definitely let us know what your thoughts are on the pay per view itself. But with that, let's actually kick into the show proper and kind of get into the flow. So appreciate you allowing us a moment to catch up. All right, as a reminder, you can find us in video form at youtube.com/Kayfabe Kouncil and in audio form wherever you get your podcast from. On this week's episode, we look at the fallout from WWE Fastlane. We're going to be looking at the matches that took place, just giving our thoughts and a little bit of a review, and kind of see what we're going to do with the pay-per-view itself and perhaps going forward. So, with that, WWE Fastlane, of course, perhaps a C-level pay-per-view. Not quite the Mania, a Royal Rumble, maybe not even a Money in the Bank, no disrespect. Maybe that's a high B level, maybe a B plus player if we're doing a little throwback ski. But Fastlane, I
All
can't,
very generous, PT. They're all quite too generous for my liking.
with all due respect, I couldn't even tell you the last time a Fastlane pay-per-view was held. Can you?
I can tell you for sure that it was held in the Thunderdome era, because Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura had a match there too.
There you go. So we're going to have a yearly Fastlane Shinsuke Nakamura Seth Rollins match. Not that that's foreshadowing or anything, but maybe that's just a little bit of the booking. Either way, the show is starting off with Tag Team Championship match as we see the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, taking on the sort of hodgepodge and thrown together team of Cody Rhodes and main event Jey Uso, of course, for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. It's always one of those weird things when you have a team that has, a good sort of sense of each other now, obviously, with being almost, a full year now, Finn being alongside Damian in the Judgment Day. And of course, over the last, number of months, they've developed some tag team cohesion. So I think it's fair to say them kind of being a tag team would be fair. Juxtaposed with the hodgepodge or thrown together tag team of singles stars, with Jey kind of being on his own, and of course Cody obviously being a single star himself. You're always scared because wrestling has a penchant for the thrown together tag team is going to beat the well-oiled machine actual tag team, and we'll get into that in a moment. But I had a couple notes from the match itself. Some nice early teamwork from Jey and Cody, setting each other up, exchanging some tags. Relatively smooth in the early going, Jey taking the bulk of the heat, with the ever-ready Cody on the apron working towards the hot tag. We get a nice sequence between Cody and Finn. Once we finally get that hot tag from Jey to Cody running forearm into an up and over, into a power slam and disaster kick was really smooth. They felt like they were comfortable with one another. They've had, and this is, of course, Cody and Finn, quite a bit of matches on the house show circuit, so good to see that parlay into that. Of course, it's a Judgment Day match, so we have to have Dominic come in. He gets super kicked by Jey. We have a nice little standoff with Jey Uso and Rhea Ripley on the outside, which causes enough of a distraction for Finn to cut off Jey from the top rope. We get that super babyface plot armor of Jey taking a briefcase shot from Rhea, but still kicking out. We get those nice, if this was a Raw or a SmackDown, absolutely would have been a pin, but because it's a pay-per-view, brother, we getting that kick out because the match has got to go on. We got to fill time, my dude. And then we get some friendly fire from JD McDonough accidentally hitting Damian Priest in the knee with the briefcase. Watching Priest's knee buckle looked so nasty. I have a bad left knee, and when I ended up watching the replay of it too and just kind of folded in, it was absolutely like gross looking. So, by all accounts, Damian's relatively okay, so I'm selling that, but it just looked ridiculously disgusting in the moment. And then, of course, we had Cody subsequently taking Damian out with a crossroads on the announce table. The finish sees Jey hit a super kick on Finn. Jey lifts Finn up for Cody to hit a Cody cutter in a sort of semi 1D, 3D hybrid spot. Of course, Cody hits the crossroads, and Cody and Jey win the Undisputed Tag Team Championships in 2040. Joker, what were your impressions of this match?
Oh, I hated it so much. So much was wrong with this. What are we doing with these tag titles? Why? Like, we split Jay from Jimmy as a shtick to, the whole bloodline thing. We broke up a celebrated tag team who, during their run with the bloodline, broke the New Day's record for holding those undisputed tag titles, and we put him together with another single star, Cody Rhodes, who we have mishandled and misappropriated because we gotta have Roman break good old brother man's Hulk Hogan's record sometime next year. I believe it's September next year. So what are we doing, Papa H? Like, the match itself was fine. I too have a great fear of not liking when um people's knees buckle and legs, and I've been watching the Rugby World Cup recently that's been going on, and just seeing some of them big blokes just take absolute tackles to the legs. You're like, oh please, dear, just kindly just calm down. And then just seeing that last night, I was like, no, please don't do that. Thankfully, Damian Priest, okay, whatever, cool. That being said, what are we doing with these tag titles, PT? I need them split. I've needed them split for months now. This sort of idea of giving the undisputed tag titles to random conglomerations of people, like you said earlier, the mixture of Finn and Damian makes sense because they're within a faction, but there's still two single stars, which can be shown by the fact that Damian Priest is Senior Money in the Bank. Like, please pick a lane for your characters here to stay in, because even the guys that pinned them aren't a tag team. They're tagging for that specific match for no other reason than Cody Rhodes got Jay his job back. Like, it makes no sense. I love Cody. I love Jay. I love what they're doing. They're big baby faces, and them fighting the Judgment Day as a sort of placeholder for the bloodline makes sense. Them taking the titles does not. And I didn't like it. Didn't like the outcome at all.
I'll agree with you in the fact that I think the match itself very entertaining, a lot of little story elements. I think it was just a really good tag team matchup with working
Mhm.
towards the hot tag, the one of the guys taking the heat and pairing off, and the pairs worked seemingly well together amongst themselves. Yeah, I think it's one of those, like I had mentioned in the opening of this little section, is that yeah, the thrown together tag team of single stars actually defeating the actual tag team is just, I mean, it's a trope throughout wrestling for years. It's nothing specific to one federation or another. Yeah, it's one of those odd things. You noted that the tag team championships, ever since the Usos had combined the two, because they were the SmackDown and they won
Yep.
the Raw titles from Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. They've been together. For the Usos to actually, they were putting in work and they were defending. And then onto WrestleMania this year, we had Sammy and KO. I can give that that's an actual tag team because they've had chemistry for years, so they can be thrown together as a tag team. You can make an argument for that. They didn't have a ton of defenses. It was very kind of in between. I mean, even the pay-per-view right after. was it Backlash? They had a six-man with the Usos and Solo with Sammy KO and Riddle. So it was like, what are we even doing here? To transfer that over to the Judgment Day, actually made note the Judgment Day's reign was 35 days. Now on to Cody and Jey. So maybe it was one of those where I don't know. We didn't want to necessarily have a babyface team beat KO and Sammy, but then we gave a little bit of momentum. We've talked about in previous episodes, of course, Judgment Day being super hot. I mean, every Raw for months, and especially, and it's been very bad in the last 2 months, 3 months, opens the show possibly with a promo. Judgment Day comes out. All right, let's do a tag team match. Holla, holla, holla. Where's the Undertaker at? And it ends the show or has a match towards the third hour of the Judgment Day in either tag and or a six-man against some people. I mean, that's literally almost every single Raw for the last 2 or 3 months. But to finish the point, maybe to give the tag team titles off of Sammy and KO to Judgment Day, give them a little bit of rubski. But then you also have, like you said, Damian is the Money in the Bank holder. This literally match came together, what, I think on Monday on Raw? They just happened to announce it, perhaps. It wasn't a
I think
long build at
so.
all. So
No.
maybe this was perhaps a quicker decision with less than a week's booking to be like, all right, let's maybe change it up a little bit. Let's have Cody finish a story, get the championship, and let's do the thing. So I don't know. But the match itself was really fun and engaging. The storyline quite possibly leaves a lot to desire.
Yeah, the match is fun. I don't know. Cody hasn't finished any story. He's just sort of opened a brand new book and went, I think we're just gonna write some children's fairy tales for now. It's just so pointless, PT, for me to see splitting up a long term tag team in the Usos to give Jay his singles run, to give Jimmy his singles run, and recently they've just been exclusively doing tag team stuff anyway. Both Jimmy and Jay have been doing multiple person matches. They can't seem to get away from being in a tag team, even though they're now both single stars, heavy air quotes. It's just so bloomin' annoying. I would have preferred to seen a Cody Rhodes versus Finn Balor, a Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest, a Jey Uso versus Finn or Damian. It doesn't matter to me. But I just didn't want to see a tag team match. I know I understand that there's this sort of thrown together Judgment Day are the most powerful faction now that the bloodline doesn't have Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns is coming back to SmackDown and everything has to be authorized, and all this here. We are now in a world where we have some strong factions starting to emerge. The LWO is something that's being pushed a little bit more. We have whatever Bobby Lashley's faction that is currently popping up. That's another faction, but both of those are on SmackDown, and both of them have established tag teams. So, like, why don't we have those tag teams sort of do something with that there? We also have the New Day, who are perennial tag team specialists and in a Freebird faction whenever Big E is hopefully going to be able to come back. But why don't we have them in the mix? Like, this is a company that has these tag titles, and they are trying to make them as relevant as they have made the Intercontinental and US title. But unfortunately, they're not AEW. They don't have good plot points for their tag teams. Like AEW ram tag team wrestling down your throat ad nauseum. Everything has to be a tag match because that's the way Matt and Nick want everything to be. But they don't, at least they don't sort of smash two single stars together at the drop of a hat. They have all these established tag teams that just so happen to be really, really good when you split them up individually anyway. Ray Phoenix, Penta, Matt and Nick actually are pretty dang good, et cetera, all the way down the line. But I just don't think WWE have anybody in that writing room that understands what they need to do with tag team wrestling. And these titles deserve to be split apart. They deserve to be given to tag team wrestlers. And we deserve to see tag team wrestling actually shown to be good. Because at this point in time, we just had a tag team match for the undisputed WWE tag team titles with 4 single stars. And it was bloody pointless.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. A couple of points there. Yeah, Jay and Jimmy split apart from their tag team, but have been in mostly multi-man and tag team matches, like you said. So what's that super weird thing anyway? What are we doing? Yeah, the Fed itself, WWE, WWF, hasn't had the greatest track record of pushing and or wanting or showcasing tag team wrestling. Oddly enough, there's 3 tag matches on this show, and only one one-on-one match that we'll talk about a little later on. We'll wind down this point with a final notion. I mentioned it to you briefly offline with the seemingly Judgment Day and or the Bloodline, which is really just Solo and Jimmy for argumentative sakes, making a little bit of an alliance per se. I told you, really, I'm thinking if there's a possibility of a War Games match, I see mostly Judgment Day versus the team Judgment Day with JD McDonough taking on the team of Cody, Jey, Kevin, and Sammy. But I could see them adding maybe 1 or the 2 extra, the Jimmy and the Solo thing. Is that something that even rings any bell? Because it looks like we've been riding that into the ground with the combination of these guys.
Well, with how things are going right now, November is Survivor Series season, and it's not very long away.
Yeah, maybe 5, 6 weeks potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. And we have the opportunity to build into a Judgment Day Bloodline hybrid team to take on John Cena, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and a fifth. Now, that is a match that I would watch. And it would be, let's say, for argument's sake, it's going to be Jimmy and Solo, obviously. So you would have the 3 lads, just kind of JD McDonough after his recent failure. I don't think is going to be accepted quite readily just yet. So it'll be Damian, Finn, and Dominico, Dirty Dom himself. And it'll be Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, John Cena, LA Knight, and I don't know who else you could add in there right now. Nothing's kind of popping straight into my head. But 5th person, that would be a 5-on-5 I'd be okay to see. And it's just because those are the sort of individuals. Oh, maybe an AJ Styles comes back from injury and he'll be the 5th person. But, it's things like that there that they could easily sort of work into Jeopardy as, oh no, we're going in 4 versus 5, and then it's time for the 5th person to come out and it's AJ Styles. So yeah, something like that would be fun. I definitely do see that as we're pulling closer to it, it's going to be some form of Judgment Day Bloodline, especially with this sort of approval from the tribal chief for them to work together this past SmackDown. So yeah.
All right, you heard it here first. Making our prediction, our spoiler, if you will. War Games, Judgment Day, possible Bloodline hybrid team taking on super mega baby faces. Cena, if he's still around, could be in it, and if he's not because of the writer strike and the actor strike potentially winding down, we can definitely slot in. We have a Kevin or a Sammy or somebody possibly to swoop in, and AJ's a really good thing. So yeah, definitely some players in that. So those were our thoughts on the Cody and Jey winning the tag team titles. Let us know down in the comment section below, and or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. Let us know what your thoughts are. And if you also think we're going to have a War Games match with a little bit of a hybrid team with Judgment Day and Bloodline. All right, the next match we're going to look at, 6-man tag, because this is WWE. It's not a trios. We got Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. We're going to figure out a name later on, of course. Taking on the Latino World Order, the LWO of Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. At the moment, it's going to be a 2-on-3 handicap match at the moment. Of course, brought to you in part by Pizza Hut, #not sponsored. But nice little...
Well, we aren't sponsored, but they were heavily sponsored, as if you watched the pay-per-view, you would see a lot of pizza in the hut.
Man, they had the sort of a pre-match advert, just a backstage segment, of course. Then they had the panels on the ring apron as well as the barricades that just literally had it smeared all over. It was ridiculous.
Cool.
So I mean, hey, if somebody wants to throw us a sponsor, we'll take it. So make sure
I'll eat
it's right
some
for us.
pizza and say your pizza's good. Sure.
We have it in the States. Do you have a Pizza Hut over in the UK, over in
Yeah, we
Ireland?
have Pizza Hut here. Yeah.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
think the only thing I can't confidently say we have is like a Papa John's, but I'm pretty sure that might
Okay.
be somewhere in Ireland. Because I'm pretty sure I've heard of it. But other than that, this is not a pizza podcast. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those because if folks that remember or recall, longtime listeners know I'm from New York City. So if we were doing pizza, it'd be usually from a local shop that, you get a pizza pie, you get a slice, things of that nature. I really didn't have Pizza Huts around us. We'd get the occasional like a Domino's or maybe someone else, but it was usually just local shops, to be honest. So
Yeah, we have like 3 just where I live, but everybody just goes Domino's or Pizza Hut. So
there you go. All right, thanks for sharing. Let us know if you have a chain pizza shop around you. Let us know down in the comments below. And what do you prefer? Uh, Joker, real quick, just off the top of my head, what kind of pizza would you like if you were ordering a pie or getting a slice?
meat lovers, just
Cool.
meat lovers, just throw all that meat, some peppers. I don't care. Just give me it all.
Cool. Yeah, that's fine with me. Maybe I'll get like a supreme veggies, just a bunch of stuff on there I'm cool with. So sounds good. Definitely let us know what your favorite kind of pizza is. But in terms of the match itself, before we got into it, I really liked that Bobby and the Street Profits had this matching black and gold attire looking real sharp. Whenever a group can have similar color scheme, even if it's staying within their attire, like how Dawkins has like the singlet with either the shorts or long tights, and then type of thing like that. But I really love when they have matching, it's a cohesive unit type of thing. Really love
Yep.
to see that.
I mean, it makes a lot more sense than having, say, in the previous match, Cody and Jay just coming out looking haphazardly against Damian and Finn, who at least had matching colors. So yeah, no, I love when people fit the brief.
Yeah, if perhaps Cody maybe went with one of his blue tights, because just to even
Mm.
just have the same color scheme as Jay would have been it looked a lot smoother. But I digress. Real quick, hot start with Santos and Montez, punctuated, of course, with that top rope Hurricane Rana, just would look absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the athleticism of both of those guys, especially Montez, people have talked at nauseum, but really, really smooth. We see Santos and then Ray, of course, getting dominated for a good portion of the match, as you do with baby faces by the heels. We get a nice spot after Montez pulls Santos off of the apron for a tag attempt. Zelina Vega hits forward with a Meteora. Of course, I had made of note it's not a DQ because the referee Jessica Carr was checking on Ray, so she didn't see the interference by Zelina Vega. We get Ray once again trying to work to the hot tag when, of course, we get to hear, you know what cool is? And Carlito makes his way to the ring, gets up on the apron for a hot tag. So apparently he's legal in this match, even though he wasn't introduced. Runs wild some clotheslines and a nice looking drop kick on Montez Ford. And the finish sees Ray hitting a seated senton on Angelo Dawkins on the outside. Bobby taking out Ray right after. Santos hitting a nice tope suicida to Lashley. Ford back in the ring tries to go for a roll-up attempt on Carlito, but he misses an insecurity. Carlito hits the backstabber for the win in 10 minutes flat. Joker, what were your thoughts and impressions on this one?
I'm really annoyed that I didn't get to hear "I spit in the face" of people who don't want to be cool, and then just hearing that original music, because that's how I was like, wait, is that like I spent the entire time him running and going, is that meant to be Carlito's music? That's awful.
In a post-pandemic world, it's not good to spit in the people's face of who don't want to be cool or who are cool.
No, no, no. Carlito should still spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool because Carlito's meant to be cool. He didn't have an apple, so he didn't bring it down and spit in anybody's face. I get that, but his entrance can still be pre-pandemic, PT. Okay.
Safety,
Um,
brother, safety. Let's come on now.
I did like this match. I love anything with the Profits in it. I've talked ad nauseum about how much I love Montez Ford. Earlier in the year, I was hyping him up for a singles run. This is, a very close second for me because I love Angelo Dawkins. Doc also went on a huge tear in the middle of the year and deserves all of this popularity that Bobby Lashley can bring. And Bobby Lashley knows the game. He knows that if he's going to make a run at a title, he needs people behind him. He's not one of these stupid individual wrestlers that just kind of goes, "Oh, I'll just tag with whoever is popular at the time to get myself over. I'm going to have myself a faction that I'm going to build, and I am going to bring excellence to and with, and it's just going to be so good." And the fact that they are feuding against a mini feud, supposedly right now, against the LWO, which again has its own really nice dynamic of the faction. I can see maybe Jade Cargill going here and being absolutely the Rhea Ripley of this Bobby Lashley faction that needs to be done, and then we could have a a triple threat match with Zelina and Rhea and Jade Cargill just to represent their three factions, which I think would be pretty cool. But I digress. I too can do Taz references. But it was a really, really fun match. I love to see Bobby Lashley, I love to see Montez Ford, and love to see Dawkins. I was very disappointed with the outcome because I just wanted them to win, but it's LWO, so I suppose I have to stick with that. Rey Mysterio, I love you, but Bobby Lashley deserved to get this win here because his faction needs to start getting traction.
Look at these two guys making reference Jones over here. Hey, that's what it is. Yeah, I think this is another one that the action in the match was just really a high pace, a lot of athleticism going on, power and speed and athleticism from both kind of sides. Just really good. The notion that we talked about earlier from the previous match, how we have factions and this is potentially a thing for a tag team and or for some bit of growth and some prosperity. It's one of those things where we have, you know, little side pocket here. I think representation is fantastic. We have two different sort of ideologies here with Bobby and the Street Profits. It's always great to see people showing strong representation here. For some of you that know, I'm of half Latin descent, so to see like the LWO to shine Hispanic culture in a positive light is always fantastic to see, much like Bobby and the Street Profits showing strong figures and just, kind of a winning attitude for folks like too. I think it's the intent of folks because sometimes people get scared, like maybe why are they lumping all the Hispanic folks into the LWO, for example, type of thing. Not to say that a group has to have maybe a lot of folks of a certain designation or anything like that. It doesn't always have to be a bad thing. For both of these groups shining, a positive representation on that is great. So it gets people bought in. The world itself hasn't done a great job of showcasing folks from a lot of different backgrounds. So, but I'll get off my soapbox. It was just great to see that and folks getting opportunities. But the real quick, going back to it, the notion of having Carlito come in, it was that weird thing on Backlash, the pay per view right after WrestleMania, took place in Puerto Rico,
Yeah, Puerto
and
Rico.
it was one of those things that I guess because it was happening in Puerto Rico, they just hot shotted, and we talked about it in a previous episode, looking at that pay per view. The push of the LWO literally happened in 8 days just before. Like they started it on the Raw, they had a match on SmackDown, the pay per view was on a Saturday, and then they didn't push or didn't do anything after that because we didn't have
Yeah.
any sort of Latin American thing. So
They were formed just before Rey Mysterio went into the Hall of Fame, so that was the whole sort of, yeah, cool, we are the LWO, and it's just one of those things. It's like, are you doing this because you want to do this, and or are you doing this because it makes sense, or is it because, oh, it's going to make money in a month? It was obviously the latter, but I'm gonna jump up on that soapbox with you. I do like to see that sort of thing. I don't have any mixed heritage. I am pasty Irish, man. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. I just love to see uh, good athletic individuals. And if it comes down to it, and I know you weren't saying this, and I don't want people to think that I was lumping Jade in there just because of the color of her skin. She fits Bobby Lashley's dynamic of excellence and the Almighty, and I just feel like that would be so bloody good to see that team of four. Plus, I think she'd be a great foil for Rhea Ripley. But it's just one of those things that you look at it and you go, are you doing this to make money because it makes sense or just because you've nowhere else to put these toys? Sometimes it's the latter, but I honestly feel like with these two factions, it's the former. It does make sense, and I feel like Ray sort of with the sort of jumping off point for the LWO made sense for him to be like, in my last few years, this is what I want. I want to reform this, and I want to bring Lucha Libre back into the spotlight for WWE.
Yeah, it could be something like a semi grooming for Santos to be elevated with his association with Ray. If I'm not mistaken, Dragon Lee has been like soft promoted to SmackDown slash
Yeah.
Raw type of thing. So it's great. We've always been trying to figure out WWE specifically who's the next like Rey Mysterio essentially for the Latin market in a sense.
Yeah. I honestly did think it was going to be like, I was just waiting for Dragon Lee to come out. I thought it was going to be him because like the last few weeks we've been sort of pushing him and bringing him in and showing him off, and I really like what he's got. You can tell even beneath that mask that it's just Roosh. Like
Just
Roosh is
not a ton of a black curly huge amount of
yeah,
hair.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
It's obviously you can tell these boys are all Russian related to Dragon Lee, and it's just like you can tell, you can see the facial structure like Rush fam. He's just playing both companies. And he has performed really, really well, and I love to see it. And that soft promotion where they thought like he was going to be in NXT for a year. It's good to see he's actually being hyped up on the main roster now. And up until Carlito came out, I was like, oh, why isn't the Dragon Lee? But then, you read about it, Carlito's been signed since the summer and they have had nothing for him to do, which is surprising because you could have literally shoehorned this in a few months ago. You signed Carlito and you put the LWO in a match. Carlito comes out to make a save. Oh, it's one of those things that could have been done months ago. But
Yeah, fair point. He made his return at Backlash once again in Puerto Rico, and yeah, there were murmurings of him being signed for a month now. So waiting for the right opportunity. Yeah, it made a lot of sense. Folks were either potentially thinking Carlito or to a second extent maybe a Dragon Lee, but yeah, I think it's cool. We got a nice little pop. He looking real swole, looking real jack baby, and we'll see if he is actually associated with the LWO or if he's just kind of just a friend of Ray type of thing, but we'll probably see that flesh itself out in the next coming weeks. But yeah, once again, wind down this portion. Solid, just fun match. LWO going over. Great little reaction from the crowd. Definitely let us know down in the comment section below what your impressions of this match. We're excited for Carlito to return. You think maybe Dragon Lee would have fit better? Let us know your thoughts down below.
and what do you think of Carlito's new entrance music?
There we go. We'll pass over the subsequent advert for Pizza Hut with Xavier Woods delivering a pizza. We'll move past that. Before we get into the next match, actually, a small little callback to the kickoff show. Jade Cargill arrives in Indianapolis at Fastlane. She's greeted by a bunch of photographers, as well as Triple H, shaking her hand and going into the arena itself, walking her inside. I had murmurings, or I was wondering if they would actually use her name, Jade Cargill. I posed that question to you offline probably about a week or 2 weeks ago when we had heard she'd signed because they actually have another Jade, Core Jade down in NXT. So, and of course, they're notorious for wanting to have a copyrighted name that they can market. But yeah, looks like even Michael Cole is shouting Jade Cargill. So
Oh,
looks
he's
like we
he's
got
been
that
doing
win.
it since she's been signed now. Yeah, like I said to you, whenever it was like, yeah, she's been. I had no doubts. Like as soon as I saw the fact that they were using her name on the official WWE site for Twitter, that they were promoting it as Jade Cargill, much to the same degree as Dragon Lee, because when he was signed, they didn't change him. It's just one of those things that why would you promote all of this money that you've spent for this premium talent, or as they're calling her, the hottest free agent of the summer, or whatever Cole said, um, and not use her brand name because she is that brand. I don't think she'll be able to kind of cut her same promos as she was on AEW, referring to herself as the TBS, that bitch show champion and all that. There, I don't think she's going to be allowed to do that anymore. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see Jade Cargill actually be utilized, and it was a bold fashion statement that she made on her exiting the vehicle.
Very flashy dress coming out of the luxury SUV type of thing. Absolutely, there's no TBS, so you can't do that. Really coming back from a commercial SNL thing line, that B show type of thing that Jade sometimes did in her earlier promos. But that notwithstanding, yeah, making her a big deal. So we'll see how that fleshes out for that. Appropriately happening with the Jade Cargill backstage segment being replayed just before the women's match as we see champion Io Sky taking on Asuka and Charlotte Flair for the WWE Women's Championship in a triple threat match. Right at the beginning, Asuka loved her taking advantage of the no DQ rule in a triple threat match. Immediately sprays Charlotte with the mist, hits her with a head kick, and gets a 2, of course, after Io Sky breaks it up. Absolutely clever play by Asuka. Got a huge pop out of me. I rewound it and I was like, that's fantastic. I was like, the match just started with that. And this momentarily makes it a one-on-one match between the former Triple Tails team there. Of course, the former Triple Tails teammate faction with Asuka, known as Kana at the time, Io, and her sister Mio Sky, or Shirai, excuse me. So nice little pop there. Fantastic little element there, hitting her with the green mist, of course, adds a poison effect for the duration of the match. So, of course, Charlotte's going to be down for the count with an effects for the remainder. Charlotte ends up making her way back into the match, and of course, she has to go right after Asuka with some chops and forearms. Charlotte ends up having a really nice cross body off the top rope. I mean, something that Ricky Steamboat would be proud of. The landing can be sometimes a bit of sus depending on the opponent, but I gotta say, the form on the crossbody, really, really nice. Charlotte ends up positioning Io in a fireman's carry on Brett's rope, and it seemed like, I don't know about you, like it took forever. I'm like, what are we waiting for? Of course, Charlotte was waiting, standing on Brett's rope because we had to have Asuka come in and do the Tower of Doom spot. I was like, man, this seemed like it took eternity to finish that off. But we had a cool way to break up the figure 4 by Io with a Meteora coming off camera. Was fantastic. Absolutely love when they kind of do that. But the finish sees Charlotte locking Asuka in a figure 8. Bayley comes down to ringside where she came down earlier to support Io. She distracts the referee while Asuka taps out. Io hits the over the moonsault onto a bridging Charlotte for the win and the pinfall to retain her WWE Women's Championship in 17:20, the longest match we've seen so far. Joker, your thoughts?
It was a fine match. I'm going to just dislike anything Charlotte Flair does for the next while.
Oh, Poochie.
Um,
Oh, Poochie.
she's just, why is she in another title match? Just like, why, Charlotte? Go away. You really like. I think Poochie was taken away at the right time. This is like Poochie 2. Like, I don't know, but Charlotte has to be in a title match. Like, we get it. You're going to break your dad's and John Cena's records. We get it. We just don't want it to happen because there are more interesting title holders. Like, if you want to go and fight Bianca Belair, then fair enough, you go and do that. Just don't do it for a title. If you want to fight Asuka or Io, go ahead and do that, just not for a title. The same with Rhea Ripley. Like I hope her first match is against Jade and Jade just squashes her, because that would just make me so happy. Like, I know it's not going to be, it is a flight of fancy, but I would just love to see Jade squash Charlotte Flair for the last 4 months of whatever we've had to go through, of her just going, like, talking to Bianca and saying, I will, I want to get in line, I want the title shot, and then just being in the title picture for whoever the heck she wants to be. She's just so pointless. Um, I did like the added sort of annoyance from Io towards Bailey. It seems like we constantly do this with Damage Guitar, although, where it's a case of, oh, Billy's peed off Io Sky and they don't really like each other, and now they're coming down and they're being annoying, and then they're best friends afterwards and they're all a big family. Like in the press conference afterwards, they were like, oh, we're all a big family. I'm like, we really need to do something with Damage Control. We need to pull that bandage real quick, because it's coming. It's not coming fast enough, and unfortunately, because of that, we have Charlotte Flair just shoehorned into every match, and she just will never go away like a bad smell.
Real quick, one small correction for myself. The opening match, Judgment Day and Cody and Jay went 20-40, so that was the longest match so far. This one went 17-20. But yeah, I think it's one of those where this one again came together real quick. It was about a week or so on SmackDown, where Bailey just set it out in a post-match promo. If you want a triple threat because they were talking smack, Asuka came to Charlotte's rescue, then you got it. And they're always teasing that dissension and damage, Catarl, like you said. I think it's probably they haven't pulled the trigger specifically, maybe because Dakota is out hurt. I felt like we would have had that prior and already, or at least maybe EO would have broken off and we could have still had the pairing with Dakota and Bailey maybe in the tag team and stuff. But because Dakota got injured, we're having Bailey and EO do those tag team matches. That notwithstanding, it's something that's continuing to be teased, and we're eventually going to pull the trigger. Hopefully, we don't have diminishing returns with that. Yeah, Charlotte's the ever stalwart. She'll always be one of those people that they'll push to the moon, a little Cameron Grimes baby type of deal, reference there. Whether or not she wins the matches, she's always threatening. She's always like banging on about, I need title shots, this, that, and the third. And, they put her in here. She'll probably eventually, like you said, break her dad's and John Chena's record for with her 400th women's championship match by 2025. That notwithstanding, I know you are a big fan of Charlotte, so that one was for you. But yeah, and then to one small point on the Jade thing, I think the propensity to have potential nice fresh matchups. I don't want us to blow our beans all the way. I think we're gonna have to space out some of those things, like against a Charlotte, like a Bianca. We can't have her challenge for the championship too early. Obviously, the championship opportunities will come, but yeah, I think the prospect of like a Jade with a Natalia, or Jade against a Nia, or Jade against a Shayna, or Chelsea to early on up into some of those, like eventually a Becky, eventually an Io, eventually a Bailey and Charlotte type of thing. We got plenty of women to have. We'll space it out obviously and type of thing. But yeah, I think the overall decent fun match. The Asuka and Io always make a fantastic showing and always make the matches fun, taking nothing away from Charlotte. Charlotte is a stalwart, of course, so she does. She's always an added element of a veteranship. So, but yeah, I think it was one of those where I was wondering, are they gonna take the title off? Or no, okay, we kept it on her, which I think is fair. Asuka and Charlotte have had their sort of time. Let Io run with it a little longer, and we'll kind of see maybe what happens next for Io with Damage Control and Io for challengers.
Yeah, Io's gonna have to have something brand new happen for her. And unfortunately, her next couple of opponents probably won't be the ones to unseat her. We may end up seeing the sacrifices of a couple of people who are that upper card and have that sort of pull before EO does eventually lose that title. I reckon the damage Qatar will probably break up by then, and one of those sacrificial lambs will be Bailey. But nepotism Flair is definitely not going to lose her title runs situation. Likely that she will be in a one-on-one match with either Rhea or EO next month, and it'll just be, or maybe another triple threat match because maybe she's not allowed to. But I definitely don't want to see EO versus Nia Jax. I want to see Nia Jax just in the ring with a heavy bag because that way nobody can get injured. And yeah, I really wish we were doing more with Shayna Baszler. I feel like she would be a credible threat if we played our cards right, and if they were building up a new faction for her, I'd be all for that. Just please give me anything except other than Charlotte Flair. And at least give Asuka a rake of wins because this as well is not fun for me. The match was a fine idea. The execution of it is done. It is ground into the ground, and at this point, it's a stop. Stop. It's already dead.
I find it quite interesting that you and I both talked about Raw contenders because probably on the booking side, just Rhea just doesn't defend her championship, and that's probably not her own fault. It's just the way she's booked. So we're just trying to find contenders for the SmackDown championship. So
I mean, who are you meant to bring to bear against the most popular woman in the? She is doing the Roman Reigns. Like I can't talk bad about it because they're already doing it with Roman Reigns, but eventually she will have to defend this title, this being Rhea. And I feel like the only fighting champion at the minute for the women is Io because she's actually having title defenses. She's actually, engaging in her division, whereas Rhea is just intimidating the men. As much as I love it, it's I'm sorry, mommy, it's done. You need to move on. You need to be showing your division why you are where you are. And that's just the way it's supposed to be.
yeah, we can never figure out booking. Welcome to the women's side of getting the bad booking that the men get. So at least they're spreading it all around. But yeah,
Yay.
just fun match, of course. Nice to see EO come out on top here. Let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. Let us know what your thoughts are on the women's championship match, EO retaining. Moving on to the next one here, another tag team match, Playa Holla Holla Holla. We see the greatest wrestler who's ever lived alive, John Cena, taking on the absolute megastar, Joker's favorite, Los Angeles Knight himself, taking on the
Yeah.
Bloodline. Taking on the Bloodline, of course, which is basically only Jimmy, Uso, and Solo Sikoa. Before we get into the match proper, Pat McAfee, and I always want to say Pat McAfee, so delicious, introduces the greatest of all time ever in the history of the world, Mr. John Cena, before taking a seat at the announce desk. Solo and Jimmy come out to Jimmy's new theme with the spooky, scary skeletons intro. Nice that they're doing that because it's the Halloween season. Nice little character work in the beginning. I love that Jimmy goes for a handshake and a dab, but Solo constantly ignores him and leaves him hanging. Jimmy just playing it off. So nice little story elements there. Nice little touches. But of course, John Cena at this point working a very slow pace with a lot of playing to a crowd, much more so than he did for the most part of his career. We see at the start, of course, John did a move with Jimmy, played to the crowd. And then we get Jimmy grabbing a side headlock, which seemed like for ages they were holding that. It was probably only about 10 to 15 seconds while they were calling spots. You can tell they were definitely calling spots. We'll get into that.
John Cena.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a moment when Solo goes for the bonsai drops. But this was definitely the sports entertainment portion of your programming. Cena taking all of the heat early on, of course, including the Rikishi / Umaga, or if depending on what's your flavor, Umanga splash in the corner from Solo, and then Jimmy and Solo are tagging very well. Of course, they're family and they're actually shoot brothers. They continue to cut off Cena from LA Knight. We get that nice little hope spot right in the middle of Cena hitting the AA on Jimmy, but Solo tags in and knocks Knight off the apron, so we don't get that hot tag. Eventually, John gets his knees up from a bonsai splash from Solo and finally hits that hot tag on Knight. Knight running wild on Jimmy with a clothesline with side Russian leg sweep and a swinging neck breaker before super kick cuts Mr. Knight off. Funny enough, John adds a 7th move of Doom with a crossbody on Solo, but he gets one of his own from Jimmy, which leads to a quad down. Because, of course, we got to get a little breather, baby. And then we transition to Knight throwing some rights and lefts onto both Jimmy and Solo, which is a nice little touch. Before we're getting thrown over the ropes by Jimmy. And the finish sees LA Knight leap to the top rope to get that suplex. Jimmy off the top. Cena hitting that 5-knuckle shuffle into a BFT on Jimmy for the win in 17:20. Joker, your guy, Mr. Los Angeles Knight himself, getting that pay-per-view win, giving a little bit of that rubski to the greatest of all time, the greatest who've ever lived, the greatest person in the whole entire world. That's, of course, a WWE trademark, Mr. John Cena.
This was sports entertaining. Jimmy, if nothing else, is growing into this sleazeball aspect of I'm trying to usurp it, usurp the power, and I love him for it. I really feel like he is embracing this solo lifestyle, solo superstar, not his brother. The fact that Jey is also kind of doing that on the babyface side, and Jimmy is trying to be that super heel. I love it. The Solo Sikoa, the actual shoot brother of the Jimmy Uso, ignoring him is hilarious. I bloody love it. It's just so good because it's that younger brother. It's like that younger brother energy. Jimmy being the older brother is clearly he's like, all right, bro, you're trying to dap him up, and then the younger brother's like, stop embarrassing me in front of my friends, and then just kind of gets out of the ring. I love to see it. It was hilarious. And then Jonathan Cena and Loquacious Aloysius Knight were just on point. I loved the fact that it was Cena taking all of the heat, building up to that sort of hot tag for LA Knight to run wild. I loved it. It was just so much fun. It wasn't a particularly it wasn't a Bryan Danielson Zack Sabre Jr. best technical wrestler match, but it was filled with the fun spots that you like to see, filled with the down spots for Jonathan Cena to call out every single spot that is required, which Charlotte Flair was also guilty of in the previous match, which I forgot to mention. They really need to turn down the sensitivity of the ring mics because it's getting like she waited in the middle of the ring as well to do like some sort of suplex spot with the girls, and it was just John Cena calling every spot so loudly for the last however many years he's been doing this should have been dealt with. Like, come on. But it adds humor to the fact that he's calling all these spots, and I loved it. It was a good ending. It maybe ran a little bit long for this kind of match because it's a tag match. I suppose they could get away with it. But yeah, it was fine. It was good to see the Bloodline taking those L's, and like we were talking about earlier on in the show, it could be Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, John Cena, and Loquacious Aloysius Knight in the Survivor Series versus the Judgment Day Bloodline. So yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those. This was definitely sports entertained for sure. This is certainly not a 3-star match that you're going to get, Mr. Meltzer and Mr. Brian Alvarez. This was definitely the entertainment value of it, and definitely showed, to your point about it maybe being a little long, it's only 5 matches, and they throw in a ton of adverts and a ton of replays and stuff, so you could feel like they were trying to fill some time to get to on a possible 3 hour. I ended up checking out the Peacock length, and it measured at 2:43. It wasn't even a full 3 hours.
I mean, you maybe could have just given some extra time to the ladies. I'm just saying. Like, it was a 17-minute match with John Cena, like, coming back for his first match. This could have been shortened by about 4 minutes and just given it to the ladies. But, it's John Cena. You gotta milk that cash cow, baby. And the fact that LA Knight is on screen didn't hurt. But it was just my personal opinion that maybe it was a bit too long.
No, I mean, I felt it because, again, like I had mentioned, there's just hit a move, play to the crowd. Oh my God, how could he do that? Hit a move, grab a side headlock,
He's the
run the
greatest of
ropes,
all time.
hit a tackle. Oh my God, did you see what he just did? Like, I know we get it. Like, maybe the cardio's not there, but yeah, we're stretching for time, brother. 17 adverts. Get a little pizza spot in there, but yeah, it was one of those you talked about. It's always funny, and I'm not even looking for it. And the whole John Cena just screaming spots. I've talked about it before. One of my favorite spots. I'll never ever forget. Royal Rumble 2018. Right at the end of the match, Roman Reigns and John Cena are doing the oh my God, we're staring at one another. Could this be the WrestleMania showdown or whatever? Shinsuke and Finn Balor are lying on the ground waiting to do their spot, giving Roman and John Cena the face off. John screaming, Shinsuke now! Now! Shinsuke! And you see him mouthing it, and Roman's still doing the oh my God, that type of thing. Never forget that. It's one of my favorite, like, what the hell are we doing moments.
I
John,
just
I
think
love it.
every moment that John's in the like he was it was a tag match with the Miz or something, and he was in the middle of the ring, and he was just sort of calling everybody to slow it down, build suspense, wait for the tag, and whoever it was he was tagging with just immediately stopped and lay there and waited, and I was just like, this is just like, why do you do this, John? It's just so bad.
They had it on SmackDown a couple months back. Maybe it was that one in December of last year. Sammy and Roman versus John and his partner. I even forget who it was.
Probably,
Maybe KO, and he's
probably.
just screaming because of the fact that they had, if you remember, the cameraman up on the corner on the steps, aiming down, and Jessica Carr is like, John Cena's like screaming, wait, and then Jessica Carr's like, nope, wait, 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 screaming. I'm just like, come on, guys, what are we doing?
I'm pretty sure you're right, actually. Maybe I'm mixing them up, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure you're right. That was the one because it's the
yeah.
most vivid one in my mind of John just being on that ring apron going, just wait,
Wait,
not
yeah,
yet. But he has
yeah.
his hand out. You're like, no. And then he gets the
Yep.
tag. You're like, oh my God.
All right. Well, obviously, we're talking more about John Cena screaming spots, but yeah, sports entertainment. Certainly not your technical wizard, but yeah, a lot of Gaga in this one, and just kind of showing off, and yeah, just sort of Mr. Lamar Aloysius getting the John Cena rub as much as Mr. John Cena is getting a little bit of the rub ski from the man himself, the Los Angeles Knights himself. So yeah, cool thing, cool little spot. Nice to get LA Knight getting the win and the pinfall there. So, yep. Definitely let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. Let us know if you were sports entertained about this one. And we'll see if Mr. LA Knight has some more potential tag team wins. Currently undefeated, but we'll see how it goes going forward. All right. And the main event of the evening, Mr. Seth Rollins taking on Shinsuke Nakamura in the third match in the series, if I'm not mistaken. This one is a last man standing match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Nice little portion early on, Shinsuke toying with Seth at the beginning portion, making Seth chase him. I definitely wanted him to WCW Seth in the beginning. We'll probably get a little bit of that later on, but we see him targeting the back. Of course, we've from the beginning, all the matches on pay-per-view that they've been talking about the back, they've been targeting in the back, throws him into the barricade. Seth gaining control. Nice little spot of him just being frustrated, lifting up the padding on the ringside area. Of course, we'll see that come into play a little later on. He was looking for that power bomb, but Shinsuke wiggles out and eats the steel steps regardless. So that's a little Easter egg for later on. And we see Rollins bringing out the plunder from under the ring, some trash cans, some kendo sticks, some chairs, some tables. Obviously, we're getting into the no DQ portion of a last man standing match. Nakamura, The martial artist, as Michael Cole likes to say, strikes Seth with nunchucks. I was a little concerned that this was a little too on the nose. What about you?
Yeah, I thought, it's like, are we really going for the nunchucks? Like, he's not, isn't he like Taekwondo or something like this here? And I don't know the exact martial arts that he is, practicing, but I don't think any of them are ones where it looked really awkward. Like that first hit, he just kind of threw it, and I was like, okay. So you're going for the racial profile of every Asian person knows how to use nunchucks. Wow.
Like I said, a little too on the nose. I know Shinsuke does some BJJ, so I don't know if,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know about maybe some other disciplines, but yeah, for sure. Then we see Shinsuke dominating early on, get some offense with the kendo stick, trash can, tope suicida from Seth onto Shinsuke, that is, and the ending sequence with the top rope frog splash. I thought was a nice little sequence there. The men end up making their way towards the stage. Both Seth and Shinsuke climb up on the edge of the grandstands. Shinsuke doing the WrestleMania AJ Styles throwback with the low blow ends up throwing, or rather pushing, Seth off of the grandstands onto a nearby platform. But of course, that's not going to stop Seth. Eventually, he gets up. Back near the ringside, we see Rollins wanting to go for pedigree, but Nakamura backdrops Seth on the exposed concrete. Told you to stay tuned. We're going to remember that because we came back to it finally. We end up finally seeing crazy little spot. Shinsuke hits a set of double knees through a table on the outside. I thought that was just like crazy depending on the camera angle because we were like basically Shinsuke was coming right into our computer, right into our living rooms, right into our television set. But of course, it's not the finish because Seth has to beat the count at 9. Make it add a little drama there. At least they, in the earlier portions, they didn't fully go towards the 9 because you kind of have to slowly beat it. If I'm like 5 minutes in and you hit some offense and I'm going to 9 already, like how am I supposed to at the 10 or 15 or 20-minute mark? I'm just like at least they tried to pace it out and waited to the full 9 and 9 quarters, to do
Yeah,
that on the counts.
you definitely have to be waiting until you're at that 18 plus minute mark before you start, like, if you're getting that sort of time, before you start even treading towards the 78 nines for me. If you hit that far too early, I'm like, we're going to be sitting here for ages while they absolutely destroy each other, and then they're still going to stand up at 9. So yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose if they do it too quick too soon. But I feel like they paced it pretty okay, and this wasn't overcooked.
Yeah, not toward obviously towards the end did we really get those longer counts. I think that was a fair play. Then we see Rollins positioning Nakamura on the announce desk. Seth climbs a ladder, positioned next to the table, perhaps looking for a frog splash, but Shinsuke cuts Seth off, spraying the deadly red mist. Of course, we saw the green mist, which added poison damage. This is +5 to burning effect for the rest of the match, naturally, which leads to Seth breaking the announce table, which I thought was a cool little spot. So and then finally, towards the end, back into the crowd once again, we make our way to yet another platform. Rollins hits a pedigree and a stomp, and then a Falcon Arrow through a nearby table positioned near that said platform. Shinsuke is unable to break the 10 count as we see Seth Rollins win in 28-25. Joker, what were your thoughts on this one?
Um, Seth can really, really sell. Like, Seth is very, very good at selling this story of the back. We've known about the story of the back since before his Logan Paul match. Um, or since his Logan Paul interview on the Impulsive podcast, rather. And it was from there we started to sort of have this idea that Seth could lose this, and it would be based off of struggle and strife and the injury issues that he's had. Um, and Shinsuke has sort of leveled up his sort of evil, sort of stalkerish vibes, I suppose you could kind of say, with calling out what he would do to Seth and how he's going to disappoint his family, his daughter, his wife, etc. So it's been really, really cool to see this evolution of Shinsuke Nakamura compared to what we've seen from him before. The only problem I have with it is the fact that we see the same gosh darn results, with Nakamura losing every match. It's annoying because we should be capitalizing on what Nakamura is doing and giving him the title. Now, I would agree with a lot of people on the internet. Like, a lot of people want to see Seth with a title, but once he has that title, we can't wait to take it off him. And that's because Seth does such a good job of elevating that title in such a short space of time. That title that he has, the World Heavyweight Championship, is what 6 months old at this point, not
Give or
even.
take. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that short space of time, we've had a couple of decent contenders that have been fairly large names. And then we have this really, really good string of matches that he has had with Shinsuke. This last man standing match, of course, being Seth's first in WWE, which is really, really cool. Now, once that little nugget of information came out, you knew Seth wasn't losing the dang thing, which to me just kind of points in the direction of the trilogy is now over. Shinsuke needs to go away now and maybe see to something else. And now we have to find the next contestant for who defeats Seth and utilizes the back injury. Um, this is something that we could eke out until WrestleMania for Seth, that I see them possibly giving him if we're going with longer title reigns for solo titles, because I'm not talking about them undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. Um, yeah, so we could see a long reign for Seth. I wouldn't mind seeing him drop the belt at Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, but I can definitely see him dropping it at Mania, him being the new Mr. WrestleMania. So it's one of those things that this match did a lot of heavy lifting for Seth. And unfortunately for me, I just don't know if we are utilizing Shinsuke correctly. Now, is this just my personal opinion? Yes. Is this something that I feel like is valid for Shinsuke? It's like, yes, because we have been building him after fumbling the bag with Shinsuke for a long period of time. Had this really good character design with him and in this Seth sort of feud. And I really have enjoyed it. But I really wanted to see something for Nakamura at the end of it. And now it just means that he has to go away and do something else. If we get a fourth match, like it's not gonna be good. I don't see a fourth match happening between these two. We're coming up to Survivor Series, which things tend to be brand splitty or faction based with a lot of factions. We could see more faction based stuff this year again, which means we're less likely to see the World Heavyweight Championship defended, which would give Seth some time to recuperate. All in all, the match was fine. I think that they paced it really well with the counts. The big spots, the hardcore spots were fun. But I just feel like I don't feel fulfilled after the match. I feel a little bit empty after that match.
To that very last point, I think it's a little bit of diminishing returns. WWE is phenomenally known for best of three series. I mean, that was the standard. Three pay-per-views in a row, the same exact matchup for the world title per se. They've done it at nauseum in the past, and this is just another example of that. So maybe a little diminishing returns maybe makes sense, because you're just like, all right, well, do we get a fourth? It doesn't make sense if Shinsuke lost three times, type of deal, unless Seth challenges him, type of deal. But it's also one of those where you said Seth, whenever we put a belt on him because of his athleticism and to a certain degree, a little bit of his character work, he just makes matches exciting and want to watch. Just don't put Seth in a Hell in a Cell because that gentleman just does not have a track record for numerous reasons in a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, that's his not so good match. Please keep away from Hell in a Cell. Thank you.
Yeah. But I mean, fair play again. Exciting match, fun. Just kind of went all over. I can understand if folks feel a little flat, much like you said, possibly diminishing returns. But we're kind of trying to figure out. All right, well, we've seen this in a different guise this match 3 times. So trying to figure out maybe who comes up next. We've got Crown Jewel November 4, right in the early portion of November, and then once again, probably towards the end of November, Survivor Series. So might get some random one-off rando match for Seth there, and then into something for Survivor Series, perhaps. I definitely want to see more from Shinsuke. Love me some Shinsuke. I love the fact that him being allowed to cut promos in Japanese makes him slightly more heelish because we, as an American, North American, mostly English speaking contingent, both in the States, in North America, and parts of Europe, Australia, various portions, because we can't understand specifically what he's saying. We can't align with him, and it automatically makes
Mm.
this feeling of friction or indifference. So that, even this little subtle thing of him doing that either live or in those tape vignettes speaking Japanese definitely adds that little character work, and it's nicely done there, and it's not overdone too.
I love it. I love it. He has a real different cadence to him than Io and Asuka do when they're cutting promos in Japanese. Like Asuka is very fast. Like she is very fast and very aggressive. Io sort of kind of keeps up with Asuka, but she can slow the cadence of how she sounds down. But the presentation of Shinsuke is very serial killer murdery vibes. He's very slow in his structure of how he's talking, and it's just so like whenever you hear a Shinsuke speak, um, you're kind of watching it and reading it and listening to it, and like this guy is psychotic. Like you're drawn in. You're listening and you're feeling what he's saying, even though you can't understand it. You get the sort of venom behind his words. You get that he wants to hurt this man, being Seth Rollins. Like you could have some generic guy say those exact same promos in English and they would suck. It's the fact that it's in Japanese. It's the fact that it's Shinsuke delivering it in his cadence that makes him sound like a legitimate threat. And that's what I have loved about the build for Shinsuke, because he has that sort of Randy Orton snake viper vibe about him to me. Like they just sort of slow, methodical, calculating until they attack, and then it's relentless.
These promos with Shinsuke got a little bit of that Jake the Snake Roberts vibe, that sort of calming, I'm gonna
Very
draw
much so.
you in, not the big fat sweaty shouty man promos from the 80s, but that little bit more the Jake style. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's one of
100%.
those cool. It's just it's a little bit different coat of paint on there, and it adds to that nature. So yeah, all around just solid one. Here I'll just put you on the spot. Just came up to my head as you were talking. November 4, Crown Jewel, one-off random match in Saudi. Who would you randomly throw Seth against?
Oh, that's a good question. We're going to have somebody that comes in just based off of random, have to have a fight. Rey Mysterio, maybe. No, he's in SmackDown, but that's a thing.
Yeah, these are
He's a Hall of
non-canon.
Famer.
They just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
well, they have been more canon in recent. They have been more canon. Let's just say they haven't strictly been as canon.
yeah.
Um,
Well, you
but
can
let's just
have
say
you can have a Brock versus Ricochet at a Saudi show, which actually
I
happened.
was
So I'm saying,
well,
yeah.
yeah. I was going to say Goldberg, but he's no longer under contract. So I would probably say somebody like Ray or Bobby. both being SmackDown
Yeah.
superstars.
That doesn't matter though,
Uh,
so.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see us. I was about to say Finn, but then we recently just got off that. Nobody in Judgment Day. You know what? How about a Jey Uso? Jey Uso versus Seth Rollins. There you go. Have that one.
Yeah. Yeah, just, sometimes it is random, just like just a one-off, doesn't have to have a huge story, it's a one-week build, boom, and then we're never gonna see it or talk about it ever again, so, yeah, I think Jay's kinda cool, it's something a little different, yeah, that could be a cool one, so, yeah, I'd be open to that.
Who would you pick?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of somebody random, going super off the cuff and totally random because those are what those matches are. Let me get a Bronson Reed because I know you're a Jonah fan.
Ooh,
So yeah, just
yes,
a
yes, yes, yes.
random one-off match, Seth and Bronson Reed. So at at Crown Jewel or Saudi or whatever this one's called. So
And it just came back to my head. The other reason WrestleDream was really good is because Bad Dude Tito was on that show. Bad freaking Dude Tito. We love to see Bad Dude Tito, and he's so good. The Mighty Don't Kneel are definitely an underrated faction. The fact that Zack Sabre Jr. is in that faction now too. Sorry, I know you mentioned my man Jonah, so I had to get a shout out for Bad Dude Tito out there too.
all good, my brother. So with that, we see Rollins retain. Let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. Let us know what your thoughts are on Seth Rollins retaining over Shinsuke in the Last Man Standing match. Who do you want to see next for Seth? Who's going to get that random one-off match with Seth at the Saudi show on November 4? All right, I'm doing a really quick surprise, and I didn't fill in Joker because I'm doing this right off of the cuff. Second Brucey bonus segment, the press conferences. So real quick, what are your thoughts on the
Oh.
WWE press conferences after these shows now?
As an entity, as a thing that they're doing, I think that they're just doing it because AEW is doing it.
100%.
Um, like there's legitimately no reason for them to have just started these things because AEW are doing them. Um, with the exception of the Cody and Jay one, like they were all pretty generic. Well, actually, Loquacious Aloysius Knight had a good one too. And there was some pretty actually last night's press conference was probably more entertaining than Fastlane itself because somebody asked Io Sky if she would like to wrestle Taylor Swift. Whoever that is, by the way, punch yourself in the face. What are you talking about? Like, ask an actual question. You're there to be a journalist, not somebody who's chasing Travis Kelsey's clout the NFL has, okay? Calm down. There's no shot. But I do love the fact that we had very, very drunk Jey Uso just shouting yeet and barking all the time, and slightly tipsy Cody Rhodes. Maybe he was better equipped to sort of mask the fact that he was very drunk. Because these boys just watched a 3 hour pay-per-view. There was no shot they weren't shotgunning beers in the back. Um, but yeah, it's like, do you feel me? I mean, do you feel him, sir? Uh, to get back to your actual question, because I digress, Mister Digressing Jones. Um, we we are definitely seeing these things happen because AEW doing them. I like to see them because they're not strict promos, and we get to see a little bit of the personality of the characters coming out. So I would say it's pretty fun. Um, with the AEW ones, I skim through those as well. So I skim through the WWE ones. These aren't canon events, so I don't take it too seriously, but it's fun.
Yeah, 100% agree with you that these are a reaction to AEW doing the post-match press conference thing. I don't recall when it started, but if I have a hankering, feel free to let us know if you know when it started, and I'll do my post-match research here. But I feel like SummerSlam last year, when Papa H took over, was probably around the time when they started doing, or shortly thereafter, 100% post AEW style, because they're doing it as a reaction thing. But yeah, all those points ahead gives them a little bit of time to do improv and to kind of answer questions, a little bit more of a sports vibe. 100% the highlight was Jay and Cody trying to show you that they're not drunk. with their answering of the thing. I can tell Jay was having fun with it, trying to absolutely probably had a couple more of the libations, as Cody said right when they went out there. Cody's eyes when they did the close up were a bit dilated. I have nothing against people
The
having a
runner
couple
was
drink skis.
definitely sent to them, and he was like, I've got to tell these guys they got a press conference." It's like, knock on the bus door
Yeah,
because you know they're on Cody's bus. He's like, "Boys, you've got to go to the press conference." And they're just lying there, completely
yeah,
plastered. Like, okay, all right,
yeah.
splashing water on their face.
Whoever you are, of course, if you're gonna do some stuff, just do it responsibly, of course. But yeah, these
Of
guys
course.
were probably maybe 1 to 2 sheets to the wind, and it was like Cody. Uh, at the end, of course, you mentioned do you feel me, Yeet? Sir? Have you felt him? Do you feel him?
Do you feel him, sir?
Towards the end,
Was the question?
basically, yeah, long rant. Wait, what did you ask me? What was the question again? The bonus question. He was like, "Yeah, we'll take one more bonus one or whatever, this, that, and a third before Triple H comes up." And he was just like, would you want to essentially work at the PC because nobody took over for Dusty and the promo classes and stuff like that? Would you want to do? And he was like, "Man, they're supposed to be easy ones. They're supposed to be a quick, toss." And he gave us a heavy one. And you could tell he was like, "Oh crap, I regret asking for a bonus question." But yeah, it was. I do like that it's non kayfabe. It's John was putting over Mr. Lamar Aloysius Knight, the Los Angeles man himself, to that point. So I definitely like that. The nice little kind of family thing. I think EO as well. I think some folks were like, she's doing that, but she was very elegant, and she answered the questions fully out there. I think folks were concerned if she maybe didn't understand all the English, but don't let that stop you. And of course, the highlight of Jay and Cody, and then the first thing Papa H says when he sits down, "Yeet." If the only thing we get from that is a Papa H yeet, then that so. Press conferences are interesting, fun. They're not required reading. They're not required literature for that little bonus thing, like we're doing a little bonus thing now. But yeah, I think they're fun. Would you like to see them continue?
Yeah. If we're going to get some more sound bites and some more interesting stuff, then definitely. I hope the boys aren't reprimanded for acting like that, because that is the whole point in having these. Like, we're seeing their character. Like, I even think that LA Knight had part of his segment bleeped because he swore on it, because he said John
Called me an
Cena called him
SOB.
a son of, yeah, something
Yeah,
like that there.
yeah.
And it was just like, I mean, just give us this sort of stuff, Let us see this. And then I love the fact that, like I said, for EO Sky calling somebody an idiot, like, it's just, no. I like, EO Sky understands you. She just may not be able to be as vicious. She may want to call you something a lot worse. But yeah, definitely keep these going. I think these will continue for as long as AEW has them continue. Let's put it that way.
I think that's a fair play. And of course, at the time of recording, we're gonna see the semi war on Tuesdays. Of course, we're having a Tuesday Dynamite this coming week. This is, of course, going to be
This
released
is
and
Tony
recorded
Khan's birthday.
birthday as well. And a little title Tuesday Dynamite. We're pulling out all the stops, a little pay per view quality NXT with the Undertaker and John Cena and Paul Heyman and Becky and Asuka and everybody under the sun trying to show up. So we're getting a little bit of the competition. No, no, it's not, but yes.
Spoiler alert, PT. I'm still not watching that NXT.
There you go.
I'm still not watching NXT, boys and girls, because I don't care enough about it.
All
It's
right.
just like, you can give however many belts you want to Becky from NXT, but if she still has to wrestle those upstarts, and that's what we're watching. Some of them are good, don't get me wrong. Carmelo Hayes, like, get him on that main roster. Braun Breaker, maybe keep him down there for a little bit longer. But no, still not watching that NXT.
Baron Corbin.
Oh, is he still down there? Oh yeah, okay.
There you go. All right, we're gonna wind down with that. So as long as AEW is having a competition with WWE. Looks like they might continue that. But yeah, a little extra on the spot, little Brucey bonus, a little extra second Brucey bonus for that. Let us know down in the comment section below. Hit us up on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Let us know what your thoughts are on these press conferences, and if you want to see more of them, see them continue. What was your favorite part of that one from last night's Fastlane? Yeet. All right, so that's going to wind down for us over here. Lots of things happening on the fast lane, some title change, some rematches, lots of tag matches on this match for this pay-per-view card for sure. But yeah, quite the interesting for a not quite an A, not quite a B, maybe a C level pay-per-view. Were you at least sports entertained, Joker?
I was sports entertained. It was sports entertaining enough, but this is more like a D plus pay-per-view. There was stuff that happened, but at the end of the day, did we really achieve anything?
Things happened, matches happened, press conferences post pay-per-view happened, but
That is A plus. That is not attached to the pay-per-view in my mind. So let's just take that outside. That's A plus. Pay-per-view drags that way down.
it's a bit of a shame when the press conference after the fact was maybe a little bit more engaging than the majority of it, but notwithstanding, lots of adverts. Oh man, did you want to buy pizza? Let us know for
I
sure.
actually did want to buy pizza.
Oh my god, it's working. No.
I was so hungry while I was watching it. So maybe that's the only reason why.
Be that as it may, quite the interesting new tag team champions. And it's one of those where we're just trying to figure out as we get towards the end of the year, once again, before we start up in January for the Royal Rumble and the march towards WrestleMania. So this is sometimes can be a little bit of a lull with the October, November, December type of thing. So, I mean, we'll kind of see what happens at Survivor Series. We get a little bit of shot in the arm. Maybe if we get a little bit of a War Games matchup there. But yeah, overall, I think it was all right. The matches themselves were entertaining, with or without kind of the storylines separate from them. So I think is a fair assessment. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, the amount of matches were pretty good. Yeah.
Fair play. So hopefully you folks enjoyed it. We got more things coming down the pipeline from WWE shortly to pay-per-views in November. Of course, there's murmurings of another big show from AEW, but we'll look at to covering those things as and when they happen. Thank you so much for sticking with us and enjoying this episode here. So we had a couple weeks off, but thank you for consuming that. So we'll wind down with this. Joker, appreciate you sticking in with this long show here. It is what it is, but we'll wind down. We'll get on out of here. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate you still being here. We'll get out of here. Thank you so much for TF Joker.
Did you in fact feel him, sir?
Let us know if you felt him. And for me, Pretty Tony, thank you for your time and letting us be a part of your day. And remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we will catch you next time. Peace.